You covered the Biden presidency aggressively throughout the 4 years, and you didn't cover mental acuity hardly at all. I mean, time and time again, when issues came up, you seem to be running cover for the president.
I don't think
interested.
That's true.
Well, I mean, we'll start with the Laura Trump issue that you referred. Here it is.
I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
you are
to watch somebody on stage search for
so
questions.
amazing.
You're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you
stuttering.
were mocking his stutter.
Yeah,
I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
Do you want to apologize to Laura Trump now?
I've already apologized to her. I called her months ago.
I'm still laughing about the stutter thing. What a sell job that was. Joining me now, Stu. He joins us again, obviously host of the wonderful Stu Does America, which everybody already watches anyway. Hey, Stu, I don't know what's more baffling, why Jake Tapper would actually do an interview with Megyn Kelly, of all people, during his book tour thing, or that they really tried to sell the Joe Biden stuff as a stutter. I don't know which one makes me laugh more, but I find the whole thing hysterical.
It is legitimately hysterical. And Megyn is just an absolute bulldog in those situations. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that interview if I was Jake Tapper. It was uncomfortable. And she's just so good. There's nobody better in that type of moment than her. She just dissects those situations, and she does not care about the awkwardness. I would have just been like, all right, well, you said it was okay, so I'm going to move on to another topic. She does not care. And she said multiple times in there, Jesse, that they're friends, like that they know each other and have some sort of level of friendship. So this is what she does to her buddies. I literally, the day that this interview happened, I got an email from Megyn's producer saying like, hey, can you come on this date? And I was like, I don't know. After listening to that interview, I might want to hold off. Right? Because if I do something that pisses her off, I don't think I'm going to make it through the day.
Hold on, I just checked my schedule. Nope, I'm booked that day. What day? Every day. Every single day. All right. On the less hysterical part of this, I had to give a shout out to Glenn Beck and you for this way old callback since she's back in the news. 2009, Anita Dunn. Oh, here it was.
And then the third lesson and tip actually come from two of my favorite political philosophers, Mao Zedong and Mother Teresa, not often coupled with each other. But the two people that I turn to most, in 1947, when Mao Zedong was being challenged within his own party on his plan to basically take China over, Chiang Kai-shek and the nationalist Chinese held the cities, they had the army, they had the Air Force, they had everything on their side. And people said, how can you win? How can you do this? How can you do this? Against all of the odds against you. And Mao Zedong said, you fight your war and I'll fight mine.
Stu, it really does explain so much when you just accept that Joe Biden never ran a thing and that woman did.
Yeah, you're bringing me back, man. That's a clip that our own Glenn Beck uncovered back in the day, and it was a huge story at the time. I'm so glad you went back and found that. I two things I remember about Anita Dunn is that clip and the fact that every time she talks, she's constantly licking her lips, and it used to drive me freaking nuts. Like every 3 words, she will lick her lips. You watch that clip, and she does it constantly. Not the most important part of that clip, of course. As you are, Jesse, always on the hunt for the communists that are running things, and you've found yet another one. And the fact that she was able to do this, partially under Obama, but even a much bigger role under Biden, where she seemingly was making a lot of these decisions, along with a couple of other names that are in this book and that we can go through. But I think you hit on something really important here that between these two clips, Jesse, which is like Jake Tapper is a story that is related to this. He is a story. The fact that he did cover this and didn't really go into it and even was mocking Laura Trump, is a story, and the media failure on this is a story. I'm concerned that on the right we're making Jake Tapper the main story here, though, and like someone like Anita Dunn should be the main story. We didn't have a president of the United States for multiple years, and the fact that Jake Tapper didn't say that on a CNN show enough is a problem. It's not as big a problem, though, as the fact that we didn't have a president for 2 years and people like Anita Dunn were running the government. That is, like, I think a crime. I want to, at the very least, want an investigation to find out which crimes were committed and by whom. I want to know every single text message that was sent around about this cover-up. You know, the government is so interested in everybody's signal messages these days. I'd like to see every single signal message that was sent about this. These people were in power. They were manipulating our country, our policy, using our tax dollars outside of the constitutional system, it seems. And if that happened, those people need to be held accountable even more than some CNN host.
That's a great way to put it. I'm definitely going to steal that and use it for my own, because it is a good point. We're focusing on the media people. And of course, you know, if it's somebody's responsibility to tell me that a wild animal is ravaging my pantry, then I expect that person to report it. And if they don't, it's a big deal. But that's not the wild animal ravaging my pantry. We had apparently a bunch of goblins running the United States of America, and they're not some nameless, faceless group. People with names, faces, and addresses opened up the border of this country and allowed rapists to come in and pillage this country like it's the medieval times, and someone better go to jail for it, Stu.
Yeah, I think that's the way this is supposed to work. You know, working with Glenn Beck, we did talk about Anita Dunn quite a bit back in the day. Also, every 10 seconds, we talked about Woodrow Wilson. And, you know, Woodrow Wilson's wife, Edith, Anita's on my brain, Edith Wilson, basically ran the country for a while as the president because he had a stroke and he was incapacitated. He was taking his hand, she was taking his hand and putting her hand over it and having him sign the bills of that she was moving the hand. And you think about that situation. First of all, it's amazing because I'm pretty sure Joe Biden did even less than that. At least his hand was touching the pen. He was using an auto pen, so I don't think the pen was even touched. But when you go back and you think about that, this has happened many times now through our history. We have a situation where this keeps getting taken out of control. Woodrow Wilson's favorite book was a book called Philip Drew Administrator, and it was a book, a really awful book, about how a president would just kind of come in. He was, instead of running everything like the executive is designed, he would hand it off to all these committees and these experts that would run all the country for. It was the best thing for America. That was his vision of what America was. He wound up getting it in the Joe Biden administration, where all these supposed experts and ideologues and, as you point out, communists wound up running major parts of the country, where you take this guy who ran as a moderate, ran at this blue-collar, everyday lunchbox Joe, and then wound up running a country far to the left than even Barack Obama ran. That didn't make any sense unless you plug in all these variables and understand that this guy wasn't even making the decisions.
Stu, on your YouTube channel, let's talk about something decent. On your YouTube channel, you're talking about Trump's policies, and in fact, you have them ranked so far. Give us your ranking and what's going to stick, what can last, and what's going to be erased the next time we get some nutball Democrat in there.
Well, I mean, that's a huge concern because, as we've seen so far, we've got the big, beautiful bill supposedly around the corner. We'll see how beautiful it is. Certainly is going to be big. But none of this stuff has really been done legislatively yet, right? So it's all been executive orders. The next Democrat can reverse almost all of it, and that is a huge problem. I think we're getting a little too reliant on executive orders for long-term solutions. But yeah, as you point out, we did a show basically ranking the policies, not based on like my opinions as to how wonderful they were, but as to how the American people were reacting to them. You know, what's working for him and helping his, let's say, popularity, his approval ratings, and what was hurting. And what you saw at the top was I think what you'd maybe expect: the border, his reaction to crime, his national defense. The things that kind of Trump is shown as when he's showing strength, right? That's what people want out of Donald Trump. They believe he's strong on these things where certainly the left is weak. Down at the bottom were some of the economic policies, like tariffs, and worries about inflation, even though we haven't really seen those come into to fray yet. But what I think was interesting about that exercise was kind of acting like a consultant, right? Donald Trump believes these things. He's going to do tariffs. I'm not a big tariff guy. He's going to do tariffs anyway, whether I like it or not. But the question is, what do you emphasize to the American people? What do you focus on? When people are like, oh, he shouldn't talk about the border because they're saying he's deporting these Venezuelans to prisons in El Salvador. That's not hurting him at all. Like, that's actually helping him when he's talking about those types of issues. People like when gang members aren't here anymore. It's a crazy formula of a way to govern. When it comes to their prices going up, though, that is, I think, a real risk to the rest of his agenda. If that winds up coming true, one of the reasons he's in office is because people believe in his economic policies. He believes in tariffs, yes, but he also believes in tax cuts and he believes in regulation cuts. And if he focuses on that part of his economic agenda, it probably helps his entire presidency.
Stu, my brother, as always, appreciate you. Come back anytime. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.